Our top story, well, just days after thwarting India's bid to blacklist Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist, China has now said that it's ready to hold more talks with India on the crucial matter. The Pakistan-based terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed had claimed responsibility for the Pulwama terror attack last month. Now, China's foreign ministry has said that it is willing to strengthen communication with all parties, including India, to appropriately handle this issue. China hopes the committee's actions can benefit reducing the tense situation and protect regional stability. China reiterated that the technical hold on Azhar's blacklisting was to give more time to the committee to have further consultations and study the issue. The move comes after India said it was disappointed by China blocking the bid. There were also calls for boycott of Chinese products on Indian social media. The US had also said that it was counter to the goal it shared with China of achieving regional peace and stability. Meanwhile, sources have told Wion that India remains optimistic about ultimately blacklisting Azhar and is prepared for the long haul. Sources say India is willing to give China more time and the ball now lies in China's court to act. According to sources, New Delhi believes that China is aware of the fact that the number of terror groups are located in Pakistan, and India has maintained that it will remain patient and will keep raising the issue at the UN Security Council. India, along with the United States, Britain, France, had asked the Security Council's Islamic State and Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee to subject Masood Azhar to an arms embargo, travel ban and an asset freeze. And joining us to talk a little bit more about this, the former diplomat Vishnu Prakash, who joins us live from New Delhi, and Aina Tanjan, who is a political and economic commentator, is now joining us live from Beijing. I think, if I'm not wrong. That is true. Well, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, if I can come to you first. Now, what do you think of China saying that it was only a technical hold on Masood Azhar's blacklisting and that to give more time, it was to give more time to the committee to study the issue? How do you read this latest comment?
Well, they are trying to be clever by the half, wanting to have the cake and eat it too. 10 years. They have been sitting on that matter for 10 years since 2009. And on a critical issue like terrorism, if a country like China cannot make up its mind in 10 years, then God help them. It is nothing but dilatory tactics. China will do anything that it can to give pinpricks to India, to prop up Pakistan, because Pakistan is waging a proxy war on India on the Pakistani behalf and the Chinese behalf. So I for one believe that we should continue our efforts to have him proscribed through the UN Security Council. China has enough information. They lack the will. China is not in denial, but purposefully they are blocking it. And that's for everyone to see. So let China stand exposed, in the sense that let China be the sole major country in the world to be seen to be supporting terror.
Right.
I mean, if they want any further information, we give them. But why chase a country which is determined not to see the reality for political and self-serving reasons? That's my contention.
Okay. Aina Tanjan, what do you think has happened in the last few days that the Chinese Foreign Ministry has come out and said that we are willing to go back to the committee? It's only a technical hold, but why hold it up, as Ambassador Prakash is saying, for the last 10 years? There is enough evidence against the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar.
Yes, and that is the contention. I don't think there's any dispute that the organization itself, Jaish-e-Mohammed, is a terrorist organization that was approved by the UN. This particular issue is a little bit puzzling because it's not clear exactly why Pakistan wants to keep this particular person in play. Sometimes he's in Pakistan, sometimes he's not, sometimes he's sick. But for China's perspective, they see this as a part of a larger issue. It's not just this individual. It is how you get Pakistan and India together. I mean, even I think yesterday they announced that they're India and Pakistan are going to go ahead with some anti-terrorist drills despite all these tensions. China is not interested in any kind of proxy wars or any kind of military conflict with India. I think that's quite clear. I don't know exactly where my colleague gets that idea. They're actually interested in getting closer to India because they need to develop new markets. So at this point in time, I think they're trying to figure out some way in which they can bring a larger solution rather than just dealing with this particular person's status as a terrorist.
All right, but Ainar Tangent, I'm going to come back to you about that point. Although for India, he seems to be a very important man, and to bring him to justice is important for us. But Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, to go back to the point about government sources today indicating that India is actually willing to give China more time and be patient, as you're saying that this is not going to certainly pay off, that this is a country that has stalled this for so many years. Let's move this discussion elsewhere, maybe the European Union, maybe the FATF. What do you think?
Well, China has, because it's a veto-wielding member of the UN Security Council, if Masood Azhar has to be designated as a global terrorist, then China has to either abstain or agree. So that's a fact of life. So yes, we have to give China time, because you cannot twist Chinese arm. We have to certainly do what we can do on the FATF front, on the IMF front, squeeze Pakistan economically, and keep exposing, keep talking about Chinese doublespeak, because it is clearly doublespeak. On the one hand, China says that's the responsible member of the international community, and it issues statements supporting. But these are general statements condemning Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, etc. at various BRICS and other summits. But when it comes to any action, China does not take action because it is supportive of Pakistan. At some stage, at some juncture, the cost of supporting a Pakistani terrorist, self-confessed Pakistani terrorist organization, I think will be prohibitive, because China will lose face. And China can afford to cock a snook at the international public opinion up to an extent, but perhaps there'll be a stage when it'll find it to be more difficult. Yes, with due respect to my colleague from Beijing, China does want Indian markets, but you cannot have the cake and eat it too. China has been oblivious to India's core interests, whether it is terrorism, whether it's a boundary issue, whether it's a permanent membership of UN Security Council. China pursues matters which is of interest to it. I am not at all saying that China wants conflict, and that's why China is supporting Pakistan in waging a proxy war.
Okay.
So that is precisely the point.
Okay, just to add to what Ambassador Prakash is saying here, Ainar Tangent, what is holding the Chinese to hold the Pakistanis accountable when it comes to the Jaish-e-Mohammed? Isn't he a liability? The conversation keeps shifting back to Masood Azhar on international forums. What is the interest that the Chinese have really to hold this issue any further or delay it any further? It would be in everybody's interest to get it through the UN and get it passed.
Well, my personal opinion doesn't count here. I would say that there's probably more than enough evidence to do that. But from the Chinese perspective, they see this as I said before, as part of a larger issue. And they want to not just designate this individual as a terrorist, but they believe that there's some other issues in Kashmir especially between Pakistan and India on a number of fronts. From the Chinese perspective, they're a little puzzled. This is such an important issue. This is such an important man. But he was actually traded back to Pakistan in exchange for other hostages. And they're trying to figure out exactly if this is some sort of game, or is it face, or is this something that is extremely serious? Obviously, any kind of terrorist attack, and these 40 Jawans who died, is a serious tragedy. It's terrorism. There is no other way to put it. And China has to, yes, consistently act on that if they are going to uphold the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's core, which is anti-terrorism, anti-separatism, and anti-extremism. So on these particular fronts, they do have to confront that. But as I said, they're not repudiating it. They simply see this as a little bit more complex than designating one individual. And I'd love to hear from my colleague as to why Masood was traded back to Pakistan.
Actually, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash has a point here. Ambassador Prakash, go ahead.
Well, I am a little, what I hear my learned friend from Beijing saying is that because China believes that there is an issue in this Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir, very much there is an issue because Pakistan is in illegal occupation of Indian territory and waging a conflict. Because there is an issue, therefore Masood Azhar can be allowed in Chinese viewpoint, as he puts it across, to continue carrying out terrorist strikes against India. I am very surprised and disappointed that my learned friend holds such a viewpoint. But well, he has a right to say what he wants to say. As far as trading Masood Azhar was concerned, they had hijacked an Indian aircraft. They were holding a gun on the temple of 160 passengers, and for the greater good, there was no choice. But again, the long and short of it is, whether it is SCO, whether it's under other fora, unless China decides to stop cherry picking and also agrees with the definition, Pakistani definition of a good terrorist and a bad terrorist, a terrorist which operates or a militant which operates in Xinjiang is a bad terrorist. A militant or terrorist which operates in India and is been provided safe haven by Pakistan is a good terrorist. It doesn't behove China as a major country in the world with which we also want to have cooperative ties to be seen to be promoting terrorism. I must say that I'm greatly disappointed, and China will realize that they will have a price to pay for the doublespeak.
Okay, Aina Tanjan, I mean, does it really then boil down to the fact that the Chinese are only protecting their own interests, particularly the CPEC corridor? The fact that, as Vishnu Prakash was talking about, the good terrorists and the bad terrorists, is there any differentiation, and should there be any differentiation? The fact is that 14 members of the UNSC actually supported India's move. China was the only country that didn't, and the other countries, in fact, believed there was enough evidence against the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. So do you think going forward the only way to break this is actually to accept that yes, Masood Azhar is a terrorist and that that there is tangible evidence against him?
Well, my learned friend has to make a distinction between what I believe and what the Chinese government believes. I was stating that the Chinese government sees this as much more complex than just the designation of one individual. I said that I think there's plenty of evidence to say correctly that he is part of this group that is in fact a terrorist organization. So at this point, I don't think we're in disagreement on a personal level. But if you want to know what China thinks, you have to consider how they see the thing. This is not about just the CPAC corridor. Remember, the Chinese have withheld a lot of funds on that because Pakistan has not followed through on a lot of the promises that they made. So at this juncture, it is not something where they're always favoring Pakistan. I think quite clearly there are issues that they see there and that they're trying to balance what is in essence a very long, bitter rivalry between two neighbors who were once one country, and how to deal with that in a constructive manner that keeps both sides happy. As the Indian government has indicated, they want to be patient. I think they see some light. There was some communications between the Chinese side and the Indian side saying, look, we will get to this. This is not going to go on forever, but they want to have some sort of meeting between the parties and try to hash out more than just this particular individual and how he fits into the Kashmir problem.
Okay, fair enough. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, I'll give you the last word here. So if we look at in terms of going forward, in terms of positives, how do you see this panning out? And, you know, as many people here in India believe that the real problem is not Pakistan, but China. We can surmount the Chinese in South Asia. We probably wouldn't be having so many problems with terror groups emanating from Pakistan.
My friend from Beijing says that it cannot go on forever. Sir, it has gone on for 40 years. And 40 years, we have been a victim of terror, which has been inspired from our neighborhood. And we have been extremely patient. We have tried talks. We have tried more talks, and it's led nowhere. Unfortunately, China is not doing the right thing. China is look at what China is doing. They talk of peaceful rise, and they have two allies, both rogue states, one Pakistan and one North Korea. And a person or a country is known by the company it keeps. So that is one side. But if China were to be seen as a responsible member of the international community, then China has to not pick and choose. And the conversation this is the latest ploy, in my view, is an effort to be seen, to be shown, to project to the world community that China is still engaged with that. China is talking to India. And I, for one, believe, I don't have any inside information, but I, for one, believe that we should not give China the comfort of dragging on this conversation, because this has gone on for 10 years. If they need any information, it's available. It's the writing on the wall, and only one country or person has to be in denial to see the writing on the wall.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much indeed for joining us this evening.
Just one addition. India is the third largest trading partner with the DPRK. So that sounds a little bit like hypocrisy.
Okay, let's agree to disagree on this show. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening and sharing your thoughts. We'll leave it at that for the moment and hope that the government will come out with a larger plan on how to deal with this. Thank you both for joining us this evening.